And with this, President Biden will be addressing the nation in about an hour, discussing the contentious debt ceiling deal.
He is set to sign the agreement averting the country's first ever government default, which would have sent shockwaves around the world. Natalie Brand has the story.
President Biden is addressing the nation tonight on the deal that heads off a historic default.
There is a gravity, as you all can imagine, of this moment. And so the president wanted to make sure that he addressed the American people directly.
The bill is passed.
The Senate passed the bipartisan measure late Thursday with more than 60 voting in favor. The bill raises the nation's debt limit beyond the 2024 presidential election. The Congressional Budget Office estimates it also cuts spending by about $1.5 trillion over the next decade. In a last-minute negotiation, Senate leaders pledged commitments to consider emergency spending down the road and additional military aid to support the war in Ukraine, after some GOP senators raised concerns about limits to defense spending.
There's not a penny in this budget to help beat Putin.
President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy negotiated the deal. Political analysts say the mixed reviews from lawmakers across the political spectrum make it the very definition of compromise.
Both sides actually made concessions, and we should be, as Americans, proud about seeing our government work in such a fashion.
Joe Biden came into this saying that he refused to negotiate, and at the end of the day, he finally caved and gave Republicans some spending cuts that we needed as a country.
The bill now heads to the White House for a signature just ahead of Monday's deadline, when the Treasury Secretary said the U.S. would start running short of cash to pay its bills. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Both Hawaii Senators Brian Schatz and Mazie Hirono voted in favor of the debt ceiling bill. In a statement, Senator Schatz said it should never have come to this, and it is not the way to run the country. Senator Hirono says she voted to avoid a default on the national debt, which she says would have been catastrophic for our country, the global economy, and families across Hawaii. She says she takes issue with certain provisions in the deal, which she says take our country in the wrong direction. Both Senator Schatz and Hirono are calling for the elimination of the debt ceiling.